Good Tuesday to you, everyone, in COM 731. Welcome again to week 15 and our review of week 14. It's later in the day for me, as you can see by, the darkness. I suppose I could turn on more lights, but it just wouldn't have the same ambiance. All right. So this is the last week. There are no readings and no discussion. Okay. So if you're looking in Canvas and you're looking for where's the discussions, there aren't any because there aren't any. All right. And remember also that, coming up, we have final exam and a paper that is due. By popular demand, we move the final exam to the 6th and the 7th. Okay. But the paper is still due on December the 3rd, and which is what, 4 days, 5 days from now. Okay. So exam on the 6th and the 7th, paper on the 3rd. And then that's all, folks. You're all done. You're all good. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the readings from last week and what you have to say and see if we can add some things, recommend a work for you to follow up on, if this is an area that interests you. Okay, question number 1, what lessons have you learned from the article on blogging that you can apply to build your communication career? Please explain. Okay. Charles, it's one of these open-ended questions. In their article, Child and Petrinio highlight the uniqueness and challenges of social networking sites, SNS for short, that are, on the one hand, open means of communication, and on the other hand, provide pathways to privacy invasion. To this paradox, the authors bring the principle of communication privacy management theory. These principles relate to information of ownership, control of what information, online privacy rules surrounding that control, when ownership changes from the individual to the collective, etc. The principal lesson is that while I am used to protecting my information online, communication must expand privacy awareness to include colleagues and customers. The appropriate privacy safeguards must be considered and put into place to meet customer concerns, or they will not trust you or the social media network sites that require their information. Exactly. And this is an extremely salient, that is significant, feature of online communication, privacy and trust. And if it's something that you're interested in, or if it's something that you need to know because of what, where you're working, let me recommend this little book to you. It's called Disconnected, okay, by Carrie James. Youth, New Media, and the Ethics Gap. And in this book, Carrie James, she takes a really interesting look at what it is the average online user thinks about material that they come across while online. And, without getting into the whole of the book, which I can't because I don't have time, the big picture, the big strokes are, it's sort of well, there it is, finders, I guess it's mine. In other words, there's an attitude, an opinion about the online environment akin to a soccer field or the middle of the street. And if there's something there, then it must be for everybody, like me as the one who finds it, and I can use it. And this is posing some challenges by way of content. I know I've certainly had my brushes with this. I've worked a number of years as a professional photographer and advisor in the not-for-profit area, really a sort of a media consultant. I would go sort of a threefold process. A not-for-profit would hire me, and I specialized in going to where it is they operated, whatever country they happened to be in. The first thing I did was a capacity assessment. That is, took careful stock of the individuals in their organizations, their skill sets, and their available tools. And then, as part of my final report, suggested to the board that this person is the right fit for this, and this tool is the right tool for that, or not, and not. That was the first thing. The second thing then that I did was capture media for the organization. That could be still photos, that could be videos, that could be audio or generated text that is I would write for them. And then the third thing that I did was come, back to whatever market, the primary market they were in. Sometimes usually it was the United States. Sometimes it was Europe. I worked for a not-for-profit that was based in Zambia, but headquartered out of Denmark. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth between there. And then platform the material to the audience that they needed to reach in order to raise the money that they needed to get. Okay, so sorry, long introduction, because what that meant was there was always, and still is, a lot of my material floating around on the internet. If you type in Jeff Gardner, Iraqi Christians, you'll see a whole bunch of it, because that was an area that I worked in for something like 4 years. Okay, well, imagine my surprise when one day I opened the mailbox, and I mean, like the old, the metal thing with the paper that comes out, strange, I know. And there's this nice trifold brochure for some charity. It's funny because when I think about the story, I don't remember who they were. That was working in South Central Africa. And right smack on the cover of this was one of my photographs. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's weird. Didn't I take that picture? Because I've literally taken hundreds and hundreds, maybe, thousands of pictures, comparison to how many I actually release. I mean, I may take 150 pictures at a shoot and only use 3 of them. All right. So, I thought, okay, this looks really familiar. Maybe I'm imagining things. So I went back into my archives. There it was. So I called them up and I said, oh, hey, by the way, this is the photographer whose picture you've taken are now sending out on your material. Not to put too fine a point on it, but what's up? And when I worked my way up the food chain to the director, she was very apologetic, and it had just been some, designer in the not-for-profit that was told, we need a brochure that looks like this and shows this. And she had just been on the internet just grabbing stuff. And it happened to be that some of the stuff she grabbed was my stuff. Now, they were very cool about it. They were very apologetic. So I said, okay, look, just send me an email and I'll send one back giving you permission. We'll consider that written permission to use my image. I won't charge you anything for it, but I'd at least appreciate an ask, and I'd really appreciate not opening my mailbox and just seeing it right there. I mean, what are the odds? But that seems to be the prevailing sentiment. Now the question is, because law, whether it's about privacy or property, always follows the prevailing sentiment of the populace. So, what is or is not a serious property crime depends on the amount of damage that's done. In the state that I live in, for example, this is like crazy. If you damage someone's property in excess of $1,000, that's a felony. They charge you, and I'm like, what? Wait, really? I mean, it's not a misdemeanor. $1,000 under, $1,000 and above, it's a felony. Because of the seriousness that the state that I live in measures the importance of property. But as attitudes like that change, then either the laws change or the enforcement changes. And current in sort of this gray area, it is extremely important both for you as a communication professional and any organization that you work for, that you understand that this goes on, and yet you understand that whether it's information about donors, whether it's intellectual property that's supplied to you by third parties, like people who do the kind of work that I do, that you've and I'm I'm not going to tell you that there's a fix. I mean, you read James's book, and how do you fix this? I don't know. That you're aware of the issue and start looking for ways to work around it or at least prevent it. All right, question number 2. Research shows that solely having a profile on social media network sites does not necessarily advance the mission of a not-for-profit organization or really advance anything for anybody. What else must a non-profit organization do if it wants to use social networking effectively? Candace, and by the way, Candace, hats off to you. You crush it every week. You're out there first. Very, very thorough answers. Appreciate your hard work throughout the semester. Chapter 10 of Neff and Moss offers their predictions about what social media will be like. We believe that by the time 2016 rolls around, social media will be just another part of how you accomplish any of your communication goals. Interesting prediction. As you point out, Candace, we can say that their prediction was correct, and no surprise, it is more of an expectation than a game changer for not-for-profit organizations to use social media. While not-for-profits should still have a presence on social media, NEFIT must provide recommendations for other communication trends that not-for-profits can take advantage of to reach their goal. At the time of writing, NEFIT must highlight 5 communication trends that not-for-profit organizations can capitalize on if they want to social network effectively. Can you use that as a verb? I don't know. First, I explain organization can use geolocation to help donors invite friends to events. I have helped not-for-profits use geolocation to pinpoint donors because like people tend to cluster together. And if you can establish a donor pattern from a certain person, odds are there are similar persons, whether it be income bracket or value inclination in a similar area. And so if you're looking for where to target your ads, whether online or in the mailbox, use geolocation. But anyway, back to you, Candace. Second point, they point out that not-for-profit organizations should take advantage of hashtags, while the movement and non-specific that comes in mind is Black Lives Matter. Third, they recommend that not-for-profits take advantage of the plethora of data made available through the internet, social media, monitoring tools. That's another thing that I would do for not-for-profits is show them how to use the stats engines that are they're just available all over the place. Most websites actually come equipped with some, and then there's a whole bunch you can buy. Okay. Fourth, they discuss how not-for-profits must be prepared to leverage awareness, structure, and staffing. And then finally, fifth, they note that not-for-profits must accept the loss of privacy that they will experience due to their rise of social media and craft their networking strategies accordingly. Now, by the way, an excellent answer, Candace. By the way, of not-for-profits, if you sign on with a not-for-profit that sort of has a mental orientation like a business, you need to start looking for somewhere else to work, because it's baked into the law that not-for-profits have to release their tax statements, their 1099s every year, and they have to list, depending on the state that they're in, they have to list donations, sources, they have to list salaries, assets. On the financial side, they have got to be really transparent. And so if you're at an organization that's balking at this, and they're trying, and I was at one, I'm not going to name it, and it had a lot of problems like that ended up costing it. Then maybe it's time to hit the door. Okay. Question number 3. Excuse me. What 2 recommendations would you make to a not-for-profit organization that wants to use social media to advance its mission and goals? Okay. Now, I want you to pay particular attention to your classmates' answers to this, because on the test, I may actually pull from, it might be something like, according to the class, which of the following were recommendations to not-for-profits? All right. So just make sure you read through it. Okay. Cheryl, let's take a look at you. Two recommendations I would suggest to not-for-profits is to remain relevant and embrace technology. Neff and Moss remind us that it takes time to embrace rapid change in technology. However, setting tangible goals and measuring the effectiveness of our efforts will provide us a way forward to prepare and adjust course direction if necessary. I really appreciate how Neff and Moss remind us that innovation is all about listening and exploring, and it is tremendously rewarding. Okay, excellent answer, Cheryl. Now, again, this is a caveat. If you are in an organization that doesn't get this, again, you need to start thinking about hitting the door, grabbing your parachute and bailing out. One of the reasons that I have found in the not-for-profit world that this is not as front and center as it needs to be is that not-for-profits often come from the vision and the passion, which is good, of either a single individual or a small group of individuals. And sometimes it happens that that individual or those individuals fear losing the control that they have over the not-for-profit if technology is applied to the not-for-profit. I worked for a not-for-profit once, a big one, part of a national network, and it was a statewide not-for-profit. Again, I'm not going to name it, but the founder of the not-for-profit was so controlling that she would insist on major communications going directly to her, not in an email box, because somebody could get into that. Who, I don't know, but to a fax machine in her living room at her home. We had an office. We had several offices actually in the office. We had a building that we rented. We had several offices in there. Nope. And she was adamant that if anybody tried to take control over certain aspects of the not-for-profit, and that any sort of technology that allowed sharing, if anybody tried to take over it, she would shut down the office and revert to operating the not-for-profit out of the fax machine in her office, which is ludicrous. All right. I mean, not only was it hideously inefficient, it was so alienating. I left that not-for-profit. The members of the board, although they believed strongly in the mission of the not-for-profit, that's why they stuck around. There was a group of them took me aside and said, we are no longer making donations to this not-for-profit because this person, the founder and the current head at that time, is here. She was so alienating. She alienated the donations of the very people that helped her set it up. And I was like, yep, gotta go. Question number 4. Given what you read in this class, why or why not would you consider working for a not-for-profit? Okay, Candace, you went first, but you already worked for one. So that doesn't count. Ranesh, let's take a look at you. Working for a not-for-profit is a good way to start your career in communications. This is true. I mean, there are a lot of openings, and there's openings for a reason. When you see a lot of openings in a field, there's a reason for that. All right. Many not-for-profits don't survive. Working for sometimes very ideologically driven organizations can be tough. When the mission, supersedes the people, this can be tough. So people quit. Making donation deadlines quarter by quarter can be nerve-wracking. And this typically gets pushed all the way up and down the work chain, by the way. Sometimes, but not always, in fact, frequently, it doesn't just get dumped on the shoulders of the people in the development department that is raise the money. It gets pushed, upstream and downstream. So communications gets pulled into, well, why aren't people responding to this? Somebody must be at fault. And there's okay. So just go into this. I'm not trying to discourage you. Go into this clear-eyed. Okay, back to you, Ranesh. I would recommend starting there to build your skills. You can also start in a direct capacity as well to make a valuable difference on the mission of the organization in some of the most creative and innovative ways. I would select an organization carefully. I've always learned from Neff and Moss. The environment at not-for-profits can be limited due to structure, funding, and staff. Take these limitations into consideration as what is what is your professional objective? The question that people often ask me, can you segue out of the not-for-profit sector into the for-profit sector? Yes. Is there a stigma that's attached to the not-for-profit sector by the for-profit sector? Kind of. There is. But you, as a professional, need to develop a portfolio, whether that's online or digitally, something that's not available to the public, but you can show of your best work. If you're involved with any money raising, how much came in from the work product that went out, all these sorts of things. So it's not merely working at the not-for-profit's a good way to start your career. It's what you do for yourself with a longer vision for your career while you're there that counts. Okay, take these limitations into consideration with your professional choice. I've worked with several not-for-profits, and budget resources is always a concern. At the same time, there can be funding available for creative purposes since they cannot keep funds in their books or on their books. Sure, they have to spend them. Okay, so a lot of reasons, and if you see something like, if you might see this question on the test, maybe I just ask it as an essay and see what you say. Okay, folks, that is it for the readings. Remember, paper due on December the 3rd, test on December 6th and 7th. It has been an absolute delight working with you this semester. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope that it's been informative for you and beneficial. Okay. And if you have any questions as we're heading up to the paper and the exam, some of you have been emailing me, and that's great. Ask me. I'll be keeping office hours this week, so feel free to give me a call. Okay, everybody. I will see you on Canvas come the 3rd and then the 7th. Until then, take care and God bless you. Bye-bye.